All right, sports fans, how's everybody out there doing? William Martin coming at you one more time here on YouTube with another edition of the 300 Pounds of Sports Knowledge Podcast. Now, with 3 weeks to go in the National Football League's regular season, there is still plenty that must be decided on the AFC side in regards to the postseason. Now, what do we know as of now? The Kansas City Chiefs have clinched the AFC West, while the Buffalo Bills have clinched a postseason berth. And a huge battle is shaping up for the wild card spots in the AFC side. Now, a lot of questions that have to be answered. Will the Miami Dolphins get back on track after losing their last three? And the Dolphins had a very, and I mean very difficult 3 game road trip that saw them face the 49ers, the Chargers, and the Bills. And I'll ask any team around the NFL to try to survive that gauntlet and go 1-2. The Dolphins, unfortunately, for their sake, went 0-3. Now, will it be Cincinnati or Baltimore that will win the AFC North? The Bengals right now are rolling, and they're looking like they want to get back to the Super Bowl. And the Ravens, of course, they're hanging around, but they need Lamar Jackson healthy at quarterback in order for them to have a legit chance in the postseason. You look for Baltimore. They're going to be at home this weekend against the Atlanta Falcons. They then host the Pittsburgh Steelers, and then they finish up on the road against the Cincinnati Bengals in a contest that more than likely is going to decide who wins the AFC North, who gets the home game, and of course, who will have to go on the road for the postseason. Cincinnati, they're going to be in Foxborough this Saturday rather, to take on the New England Patriots. They host the Buffalo Bills in week number 17. And then, like I said, they will host the Baltimore Ravens in week number 18. And I guarantee you, if you got a scenario where the Bengals and Ravens are duking it out for the divisional spot in the AFC North, pretty good time opportunity, or pretty good chance rather, that would be flexed into the Sunday night game on NBC for week number 18. Got to wait and see. Now, excuse me. With that said, my money is going to be on the Kansas City Chiefs in regards to getting home field advantage based on who they play, while the other division leaders, they're going to be beating each other up. I talked about Baltimore and Cincinnati. Buffalo, has a slightly tougher schedule than Kansas City coming down the stretch. And I say that because Buffalo, they're at Chicago this Saturday. Then they're at Cincinnati. That is going to be a very tough game for the Bills. And then they finish up at home against the New England Patriots. Kansas City on the other side, they host Seattle this Saturday. They then host Denver, and they finish up against the Las Vegas Raiders. And I mean, you think about it, of course, coming into the season, KC versus Denver and Vegas, these were supposed to be the games that would decide the winner of the AFC West this season, but that has not been the case. Kansas City's taking care of their business while the other teams have not. So I really like the Chiefs' chances in there. Another big question. Will it be the Titans or the Jaguars that win the AFC South? Now, the Titans' 4 game losing streak has opened the door for the young Jaguars, who themselves have really turned things around and are coming on strong. And that's a credit to head coach Doug Peterson. You look at Jacksonville, they're going to be on the road to take on the New York Jets this Thursday. After that, they will travel to take on the Houston Texans, and then they finish up at home against the Tennessee Titans. And on the flip side, for the Titans, who definitely need to get back on track and they're licking their wounds, obviously, as well, they host the Texans this Saturday. They then host the Dallas Cowboys, and then they're at Jacksonville. And I'll tell you like this, I'm looking at the way that Tennessee is playing, and I'm looking at the way that Jacksonville is playing. There's a good chance that we're talking about Jacksonville running the table and finishing the season 9-8. And I'll tell you like this: if Jacksonville runs the table, they win the AFC South. They already went to Nashville and beat the Titans a couple of weeks ago. So if they win that season finale, obviously they get the season sweep and will get the tiebreaker. So right now, you got a Jags team, in my opinion, that is playing with house money right now. Now, like the Jaguars, we have some other 6-8 teams, but their scenarios to make the playoffs are not as fine and like laid out, if you will, as Jacksonville's are. The Raiders, Browns, and Steelers, they're all 6-8 and they're all long shots. And I really do feel that this Saturday's game between Pittsburgh and Vegas is going to be an elimination game, as one of them is really going to be fighting an uphill battle to try to get into the postseason. Are the New York Jets done? The Jets, they're 7-7. They've lost 4 out of their last 5. And for me, I really feel that the Jets' season changed. They got off to that strong start, but their season changed when they came out of their bye and their offense struggled against the New England Patriots. And of course, they lost that game on a walk-off punt return. And then we saw the Jets make the move to Mike White at quarterback. The offense did respond against the Bears. 2 heartbreaking losses on the road, first against Minnesota and then Buffalo. And then they came back and lost yesterday at home to Detroit. I think the Jets have run out of steam. And it's a shame because this they have the longest current playoff drought in the NFL, and I think the Jets is going to be very tough for them to make the postseason at this point. To me, I think this could be an elimination game this Thursday between the Jets and Jacksonville at MetLife Stadium. And then on top of that, for the Jets, they host Jacksonville Thursday. They're then at Seattle, which is not going to be an easy game because the Seahawks themselves are in contention for a wild card spot in the NFC. And then they finish up at Miami against the Dolphins. And the Dolphins, I think, will get back on track between now and the end of the season. Will the New England Patriots recover after yesterday's debacle? And I think it's going to be an uphill battle for New England as well. That was a golden opportunity for the Patriots to really get ahead of things and try to hang around in this AFC playoff picture. It's going to be tough for the Pats now. They're 7-7, and now you host a surging Cincinnati team this weekend. You then host Miami, and then you finish up at Buffalo. That is going to be a tough slate for these Pats. Now, will the Chargers be able to take care of their business? And for all of the teams that are currently in contention for a wild card spot, I think that the Chargers have the easiest schedule coming down the final 3. They're at Indianapolis, they host the Rams, and then they're at Denver. Everything is set up for the Chargers to take care of their business, but the Chargers have to take care of their business. That's the thing. Will they be able to do it? We got to wait and see. Now, at the end of the day, in my opinion, who are the locks for the playoffs? I think Kansas City, obviously, and Buffalo are in already. So obviously they're locks. And then I also think that Cincinnati and Baltimore will both definitely get in. Now, who will more than likely get the wild card spots? Obviously, I think the second place team in the AFC North, whether that be Cincinnati or Baltimore, they're going to get a wild card spot. And of course, both of them are going to be pushing hard coming down the stretch because neither team wants to have to go on the road to go out there and get it done for the playoffs for all of their games. Then on top of that, I think Miami gets back on track. I really do. And I think Miami has too much talent to not make the postseason as we saw them fall short the last couple of years. And I think the same can be said for the Los Angeles Chargers. I think when it's all said and done, Justin Herbert has not made the playoffs at this point in his brief NFL career. Chargers are another talented team, and I think they have enough, especially with their schedule, to get it done. Now, of course, there are going to be some other questions heading into the postseason. Are teams still fearful of having to go to Arrowhead in January and face the Kansas City Chiefs? Yes and no, because you still got to deal with Patrick Mahomes. And Patrick Mahomes, he's one of the better quarterbacks in the NFL, obviously. And he's one of those guys that I think from now until the prime of his career is ended, we're going to be talking about this guy in the MVP conversation every single season. But a lot of things have changed for the Chiefs over the years. No more do they have that deep threat at wide receiver. There's no more Tyreek Hill. This team can dink and dunk you, but they don't have that deep threat. That's going to be a big thing for KC in the postseason. Will it hurt them? Also on defense, no real playmakers other than Chris Jones on that defensive line. Will that come back to hurt Kansas City in the playoffs? We got to wait and see. For me, I think Buffalo really needs home field advantage. We've seen them get close the last couple of years. And then, of course, the last 2 seasons for the Bills ended on the road, courtesy of the Kansas City Chiefs. Of course, that heartbreaking loss last January in the divisional round. But nonetheless, I think Buffalo, more than any other team in the AFC, needs home field advantage. They want to go out there and make teams have to travel to Western New York in January. And if anybody is a football historian, they know that you think about those Bills teams from the early 90s that made four consecutive trips to the postseason. A lot of teams weren't gung ho about having to go up there in those temperatures and those elements and have to face that team with Jim Kelly and Andre Reed and company. And I think the same can be said for this Bills team. They definitely need that advantage, especially since they've lost Von Miller for the season. And Von Miller, to me, I think was that equalizer, that guy to get them over the top due to his ability to rush the passer, especially in those key moments. And we saw that earlier this season when the Bills went on the road and knocked off the Kansas City Chiefs. And of course, had the Bills have had a guy like Von Miller in that divisional round loss last year to Kansas City, maybe things would have been different for them. But I think they need home field advantage. Also, throughout this run with Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid, they really haven't had to go on the road in the postseason. So it's going to be interesting to see if that dynamic changes as well come January. Now, are the Bengals ready for another Super Bowl run? You look at this team, and I know people call Joe Burrow Joe Cool, but he's more like Cool Hand Luke back there. I mean, this guy's got ice water in his veins. And of course, his team feeds off of that. And there's so much talent at the wide receiver position, so much talent for Cincinnati at the running back position as well. It's simply who do you double? And of course, if you cannot get pressure on Joe Burrow and give him an opportunity to improvise, he will pick you apart any day of the week and twice on Sunday. Will the Baltimore Ravens make a Super Bowl run? And obviously, it comes down to the health and ability and availability, rather, of Lamar Jackson. You think about it, Lamar is looking for a big payday. And we saw this scenario 10 years ago for the Baltimore Ravens when they rolled the dice on Joe Flacco. And of course, Joe Flacco had that run in the playoffs for the Ravens to help them win their second Super Bowl in franchise history. Will history repeat itself for the Ravens? We got to wait and see. But nonetheless, if you're Lamar Jackson, what a better way to go out there and solidify your big payday than shedding some of those playoff demons that you've had in years past and helping the Ravens make a Super Bowl run. We got to wait and see. Will Justin Herbert, Tua, and Trevor Lawrence all reach the postseason for the first time in their respective careers? We saw Tua and Justin Herbert be top 10 picks in 2020. We saw Trevor Lawrence be the first overall pick last year by Jacksonville. And this is a new wave of quarterbacks coming in the AFC. And of course, the AFC, unlike the NFC, is stacked at the quarterback position. You think about Mahomes, Josh Allen, Joe Burrow, Lamar Jackson. Now Trevor Lawrence is taking a step up. You've got Justin Herbert. You've got Tua, and so many other names coming down the list right there on that in that conference. So it's going to be interesting to see if this new wave can go out there and get it done. But I think this is going to be a war of attrition because you have so many good teams. I think there's more depth as far as the teams go on the AFC side as opposed to the NFC side. And these teams are going to beat each other up. They're beating each other up trying to get to the postseason. And of course, they're going to beat each other up a little bit more come January. This might be a scenario where it's not about who you play, but who you don't have to play and who you can avoid in order to, get to the Super Bowl. So I tell you like this, I look at Kansas City, they have a legit shot. I look at Buffalo, they have a legit shot. I look at Cincinnati, they're legit as well. And I think even though the Dolphins are currently on a 3-game losing streak, I think the Dolphins are going to be a force to be reckoned with because they can rush the passer. And then you look at their ability to run the football, and then you look at their playmakers at the wide receiver position with, of course, Jalen Waddle and Tyreek Hill. And if you pay attention to them too much, a guy like Mike Gesicki, a tight end, can get you as well. So all of these teams, I really think, can make a run. If Jacksonville gets in, I think this team, you know, they could be a problem. And I say that from the standpoint that you have a head coach in Doug Peterson who's won a Super Bowl. You have a young quarterback in Trevor Lawrence who is getting more and more confident every time he plays. You have a defense that plays with nastiness and they play with an attitude and they know how to get after you. And more importantly, I think the Jags are playing with house money right now. And you think about the times over Jacksonville's franchise history when they've had deep runs into the postseason. I think back to 1996 with Mark Brunell and Tom Coughlin. And I think back a couple of years ago when Jacksonville got to the AFC Championship game. All of those times, they were the young upstarts. They were playing with house money and they just ran with it. And I think this Jags team, if they get to the postseason, I think they could do that damage as well. If they're able to catch the Titans and win the AFC South, obviously they get a home playoff game and they'll probably be playing the team that has a much better record than them. But nonetheless, that team has to come to their place in order to get it done. So I look at this Jags team; they could be a problem. Miami's legit. Kansas City, of course, with Mahomes and Andy Reid, you never count them out. Cincy and Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase and company are once again going to be dangerous. Will the Baltimore Ravens factor into this? We got to wait and see. And if the Chargers get in, what will Justin Herbert be able to do in his first trip to the postseason? We've seen him get it done in the regular season, but of course, people remember you more by what you're able to do in January and February. But make no mistake about it, I think we are in store for a battle in the AFC playoffs next month. My advice to everybody, whether you're watching it on your phone or your TV, just get a comfortable spot in your house, break out the popcorn, the beer, sodas, whatever else, cozy up, and just be in store for some great AFC action in the postseason next month. So, folks, that is going to wrap it up. And as always, I want to take this time out to thank you for tuning into the 300 Pounds of Sports Knowledge podcast here on YouTube. I want to take this time out to thank all of you fine folks out there for tuning in. And if you have not already, please feel free to subscribe to this channel. Now, if you're on Twitter, please feel free to follow me at 300 Pounds of Sports. And like I always say, if you follow me, it'll be my pleasure to follow you right back. There's also the sports discussion group on Facebook at the Sports Depot 365. You can check it out, drop a line, and be a part of one of the better sports debating sites going on social media. So, once again, fine folks, my name is William Martin. I am signing off, saying take care and have yourselves a wonderful day.